Hello everyone. Hello Fanny. Hello Kira.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to another problem of the week. We want to work on something fun with Kira and Fanny today. The thing I'll ask you both, by the way, is we have to come up with one solution, the same one, not just two or three solutions, one solution that we really believe that's the best, and write the design rationale about it, write it somewhere. Good?
All right.
Are you okay?
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen. Let's do this. Who want to read it? Kira?
All right. Apply option after error validation. Apply option after error validation. Mm-hmm. All right. So I have a question about the price range filter. Case study. If user types wrong numbers in the min and max field, for example, this is a spicy one. Minimum 250, max 150. So what should I do? I block the apply option, or instead ignore and let the option apply and let them see the transaction history without any price limit. Ooh. The party was just getting started. Okay, this is a good one because this really maps to error validation, forms, input behavior, and filters, which we love so bad.
Yeah, you want
Right.
I thought it was a good one for you both.
Yeah.
I will let you play with this. I will just invite you to, speak aloud when you're designing something in Whimsical, and just have fun. I will just look at what you're doing and,
Cool.
Right. Nice. So what do you think? What pops into your head?
Well, the first thing that came to mind for a range selection is I see this as being a slider. Because in a slider format, you can't go wrong. Like you can't invert the max to be before the min. But then there might be a reason why they need text. So should we kind of say that we stick to this type of input just to make it a bit more spicy? I don't know.
What do you think, Benoit? Should we sky's the limit, or should we work within the original constraints and try to make a form that has proper validation communication with it?
Well, design is serving a need that is the business need also. So yeah, sky's the limit, but make it feasible.
Because if we stick to text input, we can just have a logic of whatever is being input on one of the two fields. The other field's placeholder should reflect that value, like plus or minus 1. Which would be the extreme of that range. The minimum range. So if you're typing 250, the max would it be weird to have it switch like 251 at least?
I mean, that would be interesting. So like dynamic placeholder text is kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or
there's a lot of like parts of this input that we could potentially do something with, because it could be like the placeholder text, also the like underneath, what is it called? Underneath text of a input.
The help
message area.
Message area. And then I feel like I've also seen interactions where they just flipped them for you, but that might be hard to do.
Yeah, that one's hard because I feel like I see those a lot in date range pickers, where if you accidentally like pick an earlier date to your initial start date, maybe you just want to like tweak it a couple days, and then it flips the whole thing over, and you're like, ugh. You have to like fix what the system tried to help you do. Yeah.
The another option too that I don't know if this is interesting or not. Might also be like drop downs, because if you need total precision, then an input really works. But maybe also drop down values could be another approach that you would take, where you would then disable the options that are invalid according to the other input's value.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or like do the arrow thing, boop, 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 boop. And then put the behavior into
because I'm wondering now, maybe the problem is not in the input and more in just allowing or preventing you to go forward depending on what you type. Because in this example, the person said, should I block the apply option, so like just make it not clickable, or ignore it and like pull empty results, basically?
Right. Yeah.
So, but then, wait. There's apply is not technically about the input, but you do want to put blocking states in the input too.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
It's maybe time to see something to make it
Yeah,
more
should we
concrete so
just-
you can play with this.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
draw it? Okay, let's make a tiny little screen just for that to field and button situation.
Oh, I was just checking if Whimsical had the right kind of slider, but it doesn't. It just has this one.
Oops.
So not quite.
Hello. Okay. So the minimum can be 0. So initially, I guess we can do. Yeah, I'm just gonna. You can do the. You want to do slider one? I do
Yeah,
the
sure.
text one.
I'll just.
And the max, let's say it's 10,000 or something.
We'll just put them close for now. Oh, I have to draw this. Yeah.
So again, the problem is apply option after error validation. So it's a classic, minimum, maximum. We have a range.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting here to a point where the placeholder could expose your available range. So let's say the max is 10,000. You see that both in, well, actually, realistically with this, and then as soon as you type, the other field responds with, okay, now your available range is 251 to the actual max. And then if you try and put something else, you get an error and you still can't apply. And then, yeah.
Informing your user is great in a placeholder, but the thing is, you just forgot it as soon as you input it. So how you can remind him what's the minimum, maximum while typing?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Well, then maybe it becomes helper text.
Helper text.
Hello. Which a Whimsical doesn't have as a component.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick slider. I just drew one, which is a little bit cuckoo, but I've seen kind of setups like this before. You basically have handles kind of on each side, and then you have a bit of like an updated value as you drag them across, and then you're not allowed, like once they meet here, you're not allowed to switch their direction, basically. So it puts that constraint in there. So, would this, I mean, out of the box, something like this would probably be cheaper. And
Cheaper, it's very visual, not that usable on small screen or in a touch screen.
true.
Or to be very precise.
Yeah,
If you're like with a cents, let's say you want to go in 150 and 50 cents.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so why don't I just jot down some of the kind of upsides and downsides. This might be the rationale, like the way that we would sort of weigh out this different rationale and talk to people about, what the respective approaches kind of do for us.
Design rational. That's something. I think we have a good article about it and a live about it. I'll put the link in the description. But yeah, design rational is where we explain why we're doing it so we don't forget about it, and maybe we'll iterate the design rational. So yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm out.
You stealer.
Yeah, I stole your little box.
So yeah, one of the design rational is make sure it's usable in every screens, but it's also very feasible with basic components we can find here and there.
Yeah, so we have, and then it kind of live updates, and then you don't. Okay. I'll put my good things in green, and then I'll put my downsides in orange. Okay.
I'm wondering what my bad things are here. Apart that it's you can reach a blocking state in here in my text-based one, which but it does allow for a good thing, which is granularity.
I would say in a facet it's a little bit complicated because you have a small space on left and right. If it's in the middle of the screen, feel great. You have context on top and bottom, and you can add more contextual information. That's great. Again, small screens, a little bit weird. How can you explain the relationship between the first one and the next one visually? Can you? Is something important? No, it's not that important.
Well, I've seen it as well, where you actually have like a little dash between them.
That's one.
Where you can
It's a classic, dash. Just doing color is not enough. It's not accessible enough. How we can say that you hit a max or you do 4 or things like that. What's the retraction here? Funny.
Oh, in this state.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. So we usually will do like an icon to support the color state change. Sort of depends on your library, which where that will show up for you, but man.
Can you explain it, or the user had to?
Well, yeah, I would have put words here.
Yeah.
I would have put a message, and I don't think this one has a lot of room for it, but I love how the person on UX Stack Exchange wrote it, their error message. They wrote like max is below min lorem ipsum. I feel like that's such a dev way to explain it. Like if I was given this information, like your maximum is smaller than your minimum, I'd be like, for
Wait,
2 minutes, I'd be like, what?
What?
Like, I would get it eventually, but I love how for them it's so clear, but definitely this would need to be very thoughtful and like clear.
Yeah.
The copy. Like
Yeah.
this is not good, but
What
So
about
you
after? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, in terms of the way that you craft your error message, this is like a key kind of part of the whole equation, right? Like, so you could make it highly contextual, and you could say must be greater than whatever the minimum value is, must be less than whatever the maximum value is. You could also,
Wait. You want to inform them before or after they input something?
I'm talking about in the case where it's actually in an error state, where we're communicating like how to fix it, what's going wrong.
I feel that the problem is we want to convey this information before you start, playing with it. That's feel what I see in the problem right now. Hitting an error every time so you can guess what's the minimum is.
yeah, and you know what I'm just realizing? This is actually pretty bad because I might be typing, like I might be in the middle of typing 1000, and then the system would like tell me I'm having an error. Like that's something I think we've written before. Like wait until they're kind of trying to submit before telling them they're wrong. Like don't assume they're wrong. Where now I see that this is doing that problematically.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Like if you could be clicked out at this point, if you clicked out and then you
it would have to be on click out.
The thing is, I need to input something so I can know what's the maximum. Something it's a little bit weird. What's the maximum? What's my maximum? What should I, why should the system wait until I input something to say, well, the maximum is that, by the way. You know what I mean?
Oh, like it could be pre-filled, you mean?
Pre-filled, or how can we inform them before they start inputting something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually thinking maybe about the like having a dash between the two fields. I was thinking like, what if it's like a sentence? So that you always remember you're building a range. Like I want to look at house prices between this price and this price. From, well, maybe this is not house prices, but maybe sentence can help maintain context.
Yeah, I like it. I do like a good natural language approach to it. And we could also one approach that I've also taken in the past is to have if we couldn't structure it into the fields themselves, we could take a little bit of real estate and say some informative text when you start. So your range must be, low, lower, and higher, something like that. Something that explains it. And then once you start to populate the fields, then it can show you you're looking at prices from X to ... and then you fill in that. So you could take a zone to kind of do that communication. It could be proactive and then reactive, kind of do a transition between those two states.
Got it. Start to be a little bit complicated. Why are we not inputting the min and max already, and they can play with this? Why are we waiting for them to?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point, Benoit. You can, by default, we could actually say, placeholder text is not even that useful because it needs to be dynamic because it's numerical like this. So we could even just start it at 1 and then just go to the absolute uppest range,
Exactly.
highest range value, so that it's effectively all to begin with.
It's
and
all
then
exactly. Maybe the last thing we have to do is to show them that this is the minimum. It's not just a suggestion. You see what I mean? If you put 100, for example, that's the minimum. Or in the example that Dev gave us, it's this is the range. How we can explain that this is actually the range? You cannot go below 100 and not max 250. The thing here, if we can inform them, they don't have to click on anything to know everything about it. Can we put an icon in, the input? Can we inform them in a way? Can it be a dropped? No, it cannot be a drop down because we don't want things to be special.
I've seen the ones, where they have like on the side, they have a uppy and a downy
It's true.
arrow. And so you could have, in this case, you could have the down disabled. That would communicate that you can only go
that's great.
from here.
Great.
So
And so as soon as you change it, the icon changes and you see you can play with it a little bit.
Okay, let me just bring this in, which I can't stop thinking about. The Airbnb price range. You get everything in here. You get stats of like
Sure.
where the results are kind of hanging out. You get visual picker and text picker, and you get informative empty states. Well, placeholders.
You can be precise about it. You have something visual. You can play with it on the desktop and stuff.
Because I was thinking about this element here, where you can kind of preview how many results to avoid people trying to apply with an erroneous max or like stuff like that.
Why it's so powerful here is that you will never have any error messages. Just
That's it. Preventing
that's what-
errors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have. So you can play with this. It's very visual. Very visual.
yeah. And the other thing is that you can also do like some aggressive text input behavior too. So if you, for example, with your min price, if it really has to be at least $10, like you see in the Airbnb example, then if you go into that field, you take the value out and you put in 0, for example, it won't even register your 0.
Yeah, it just re-puts the 10.
It'll just re-put. It'll just
you
like
click out.
reverse it.
Note that in the design principle. That's also a good thing. And we can do a lot of interaction with any data visualization thing like that. You over on something, you know that the average is about. That's very useful. So you can make a decision before entering anything. So this can influence even what you will input. So that's powerful.
So maybe we just want to have it all,
Let's have it all. And again, it's not that complicated. It's just a two input field with a slider that has some bars. It's good.
So, yeah. So you just have.
But it's more costly then, too, as a solution, because you have to do 2 inputs now.
Let's remove the visualization, but it work. No, right? Without a visualization, it can work. If someone can enter, $9 or $8, something like that.
I mean, you would still have to deal with the thing with something like this. I feel like what I'm wondering is how much can you sort of boss the user around, and how many cases should you prepare for like throwing an error? So I guess this just made me think that like we're just looking at ways to communicate how it's wrong. But if we just don't allow you to put in the small things in the first place, then we're forcing you in a direction without giving you that like error feeling.
Well, we're not telling you what's the error. We're telling you what's possible.
Yeah,
We're giving you a sandbox to play with.
Yeah.
So that's a great principle. There's no error. There's no validation. And that's I think why the problem, we need to ask better question. It's not how let's go. It's how to apply an error validation. No, great UX is you don't need any errors. We can provide you something that you will not have to make an error.
Yeah, and this is something that we talk about in various materials, various content that we have, like our error article, for example. It's like we go through, what's acceptable, how is an error built, all of this stuff. But the ultimate thing is prevention, and and like you see some interfaces that they just feel so reactive all the time, and rather than proactive communication.
I would say even it's cheaper because I don't have to develop any error validation. I don't. I'm just proposing what I have in my database, whatever. I'm getting a way to browse it, to play with it, to interact with it, and you make a decision, and the screen will update itself based on what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Can you write a design rationale about it?
we can.
Yeah.
Write a design rationale. What even is that? I'm thinking like Confluence, 10 pages, screenshots, prototypes.
So
Let's do one principle.
a couple
Or
of
rationale.
Rational. Because we, as a designer, we can say, "Hey, Dev, what about this? Can you do that?" And we'll start an argumentation about, "Well, I was looking more about the validation," and we forget about the principle of a great user experience. So what we're aiming at is building an experience to show what's possible rather than
What's wrong?
what's wrong.
Throwing errors, yes.
And just with this rationale, there's multiple possibilities. That's just one. The visual, just one. But it's an easy one, and I feel it's a common component, a common experience also that we see elsewhere in real estate, in Airbnb, and everything. It's something that people are used to. So less training, quick onboarding. That's one of the principles also that builds something that is completely new.
Yeah, and I think too that a lot of like SaaS products and like enterprise software products, they sort of get into a bit of like a habit or a way of making the interface behave where it's like, oh, just throw an error state. They sort of get addicted to that as like the only possibility of a thing that you can do to tell people what's up. Like we worked on a data table once where you had to do a bunch of inputs into each row, and that was what the workflow was about on that page. And you get to the page loads, and all you see, it's like a sea of red coming at you. So it's like, and it was meant to show you like fill stuff in is what it was supposed to tell you, but it just threw an error for like all of those. So you came to that page with like an instant panic attack.
Not a positive experience.
No.
Wow.
It's a great example of UX asking the right question will have better answers than just trying to answer the question that devs are sending us. It was fun. Fun.
Totally. The like panic reaction of like, this is the sprint, we have to get a thing.
Good. So thank you. This was a short one, but an easy and fun one. I think it's good principles behind that. Thank you, Fanny. Thank you, Kira. And see you soon for another something problem of the week.
Cool.
Thank you, Chris.